Hey, group. How was everybody on Sunday? This is a big one. This really is. This is probably one of the more important subjects, and we talk about it from time to time. We've done shows on hate before. In fact, I think we've probably done 4 or 5 of them over the 800 and some odd shows that we have done. But we're going to approach this one from a slightly different way. There's been a question basically since the dawn of alcohol creation of why is it that there are people that can handle it and there are people that can't. There are people for whom that substance will own them. Same thing with the poppy, right? The poppy was discovered before Christ, and people have had a problem with that since. Same with the coca leaf and everything else. And the numbers always come across pretty much the same. If you take alcohol in the United States of America, you got about 70% of the population that says that they drink at least time to time. Of that 70%, 30% of those drink to excess regularly. So these are people that go out, hit bars, get loaded, whatever. And 3.5% are going to develop alcohol use disorder. And that is how it is written up in every handbook that you come across. It won't be in the years to come because it's all old literature. What it's going to say instead is 3.5% of them have a defect in the brain. There's no other way to put it. It's a brain defect that's going to make it impossible for them to consume the same way that the 30% does or the 70% does. And make no mistake, that 30% that drinks to excess, a lot of those people can ruin their lives doing it. There are people that just get loaded every single day for a couple of years and in the process destroy relationships, crash cars, do all kinds of stuff, and then stop. And the reason that they're able to just stop is because they're not part of that 3.5%. And if you are not somebody with that particular brain disorder, it doesn't really matter how much you do it. As I said, you can ruin your life, but you're not going to catch the habit. Because that habit is absolutely definable. If we put 45 people on a PET scan and we look at brain activity from all of those people, you can go, that one's an addict, that one's an addict, go right down the line. That one, without ever seeing the people. And the fascinating thing is we can do that before any one of them has ever had a drink. We can do that before any one of them has ever gotten high. So the same kind of experimentation that often most people do right around the end of high school or going into college. Lewis Clark, good to see you, bud. M. Hunt, good to see you. But the same kind of experimentation that almost everybody does at some point is going to get a hold of 3.5% in a much, much different way. Because that is the percentage of the population that has that part of the brain firing way more here and way less here. Same way every time. Your brain, no different than my brain, no different than anybody else here, right? Now, if that person never touches alcohol, well, then they're not going to develop alcohol use disorder. What if they experiment instead with cocaine? Well, that person who had the potential to become an alcoholic instead will become a cocaine addict because the propensity and the inability to stop affects 3.5% of the population. And that is just the way it goes. 3.5%. That number hasn't changed. It is never going to change unless they figure out a way to maybe chemically do something to the brains of individuals who are predestined to end up that 3.5%. Does that mean that they're going to? No. There are people who will never experiment. God bless them. Thank God, right? There are people in the 3.5% who are never going to develop a habit because they don't ever pick up a drink. They don't ever pick up a drug. They don't ever experiment with anything. They're out there. It is the rarest segment of society by far. The percentage of people in this country who have experimented with drugs, it is the absolute majority in a staggering landslide. But there are people who are able to avoid that altogether because they simply just do not experiment. If they do, and they're the 3.5%, there is no amount of willpower, There is no amount of good living. There's no amount of believing in God or any of the other things that is going to stop that 3.5% from owning you. It is what it is. There are people who really struggle with this concept. But since the dawn of this happening, it's an interesting phenomenon. When people begin to realize that they have a problem, why do they not come forward and ask for help? Why don't they that day, the day they realize? Because I promise you, I mean, everybody here can tell you, that hits you like a ton of bricks. That realization that, oh my God, I literally can't stop. I don't understand why. It's destroying my life. I know that this stuff is absolutely killing me. It's killing my family. It's hurting everybody that cares about me. I'm getting a criminal record. I'm doing things that I never, ever dreamed that I would have done, but I cannot stop. Well, the reason that people don't come forward is because those who are not in that 3.5%, very often, especially in years gone by, very often those people, instead of showing compassion of any kind, they show hate. You see, they believe since they were able to have a few drinks, they never became an alcoholic. You know, I tried weed once. I didn't lead me as a gateway drug to anything else. Yeah, you know what? I had my wisdom teeth out. I ate an entire bottle of pain pills in 4 days, got high as hell, loved it. Never did it again. There's that instant feeling of superiority in all of those people. And sadly, it comes out as hate. Make no mistake, it comes out as hate. And that societal hate of people who sadly are not built the same way keeps people in the life. I have worked now with thousands of people who have been addicted to drugs or alcohol. I've worked with them on just about every corner of the world, right? I've talked to people who, from England. We got people on there right now. Paul, good to see you. People from England, people from Scotland, people from Australia. You got a big crew from Australia. People from all over the world, the Philippines. Doesn't change. It doesn't change at all. The expressions, what they call getting wasted, there are different words for all of it. Getting pissed as opposed to getting drunk, right? All of those things. Small little differences, but the phenomenon is the same. And so is the hate. Sadly, we begin to hate ourselves, don't we? I mean, instantly. The second you realize that you're an addict, you begin to start hating yourself. And very often you believe what society tells you. Like, if you were just stronger, you'd put that crap down. You wouldn't have any problem. It's just that you don't have any willpower, or your moral fiber isn't strong enough to put that down. Look at me. I'm not an addict, right? I tried the crap. I'm not an addict. It requires a complete paradigm shift in every single part of your life in order to make that happen. And the medical community, as we've talked about so many times, threw their hands up in the air and said, screw it, nothing you can do. If a person is drinking, keep them away from guns. For the love of God, don't let them drive or operate heavy equipment, and they're going to drink themselves to death. So if I were you, I would keep them away from, kids or anything where they may accidentally hurt somebody. That was the medical community's stance on alcohol use disorder forever. Forever. Until two guys who were addicts figured out a way to actually treat people. It was amazing if you think about it. Two alcoholics that just said, you know what? I'm going to stand by you. You stand by me. Maybe I can't stop myself from drinking, but I bet you money I can stop you from drinking. And if you just try to stop me from drinking, then maybe this will work and we'll get through a day. And now because of those two people, tens of millions of people have gotten off of the poison through group therapy. And this is what works. Group therapy. People coming together. Why? Because when you're deep in the life, when you are hating yourself for what you've become, it is impossible to believe that you can live a life without drugs. It's impossible. Your brain hijacks every system of the body, right? The reward system, the same thing that makes a mother love her child when they hand it to her for the first time. Or the same thing that makes sex wonderful the first time you have sex with someone you've never done it with before. And your head's just like the most unbelievable thing in the world. It was amazing. It was a chemical reaction in the brain is what it was. The addict has that exact same chemical reaction when they pick up a drink, when the alcohol touches their lips the first time. That same shot of the same chemical, no different, gets released in the brain. Or the drug dealer pulls into the parking lot at Home Depot and you recognize his car and you know he's here with a drug that is going to stop you from being sick and make you feel comfortable in your own skin for 6 to 8 hours. Brain turns on that chemical and says, you're doing the right thing. The reward center of the brain is there to make human beings do things that will keep the human race going. Reproduce, work hard, right? Build shelter, all of these things, you will get rewards. And of course, the child, biggest reward ever, because without that, we probably would throw them away. They come out, they're screaming, they're crying, they're scary as hell. But there's a bond, an instant bond, because there is so much of that chemical that gets dumped into your brain. Well, for that 3.5%, that exact same thing happens in no difference at all for a bag of meth or a Coke, a paper, a 50 paper of Coke, a balloon full of heroin, whatever your poison. But it is the exact same phenomenon. Yet society will hate you for that. They will. Not all of them. There are people out there that are just wonderful. But a good-sized chunk of society is just plain going to hate you. And if it was just enough to be hated, that would be all right. But it's not. They're going to toss labels at you. You're weak, right? You have no willpower. And then words like degenerate or whatever. And it's funny because these things, these addictions lead to really bad things happening. I've been very, very open with my past and the things that I've done. And I went and did time for it. I got sent to prison. And if you've never been there, then I don't think you have a handle on what punishment is, especially if you've been to one of the more dangerous ones. It is absolutely phenomenal how they punish in this country. They don't do anything to help you rehabilitate yourself. They expect you to try to do that on your own. And some people it works for. Worked for me. But not because of anything I did. I was found by somebody who cared enough, who didn't hate. But you walk out that door and what happens? Well, your debt to society is paid, right? Your debt to society is never paid. So they wonder why people who have suffered with addiction click up with other people who have suffered with addiction. It's a pretty simple answer, isn't it? You can go to a place where no one is going to think you're weak. They're going to understand exactly what happened in the brain when the booze hit your lips because it happened to them. And you know what? Seeing somebody get out gives hope to people that they can do the same thing. Because I have never, in all of the countries, in all of the addicts, in all of the drugs, in all of the people I've talked to, I have never once talked to an addict that enjoyed being addicted. You hear society talk all the time. Well, yeah, he's partying for years. Trust and believe it isn't partying. It's not what it is. But see, their view of alcohol is the 4 times or 5 times that they really got loaded, right? And there was a lampshade on the head and people were laughing and the next day it was just funny as hell. Well, that isn't it, is it? It's absolutely nothing like the experience of the addict. Nothing. It stopped being fun a hell of a long time ago. The science is solid. It's a disease. It's a disease. There's absolutely no way to argue it. It ticks all 4 boxes to be a disease. It wasn't until recently, till the technology came that could photograph a brain and prove it, right? You have to be able to prove with a test that one person shows a malady and the other does not, or it is not considered a disease. So for a long time, it wasn't. It is. It's not a debate, yet there are ignorant people all over this world that will tell you it's not, in the face of every single bit of science. And do you know why? Because they want you to suffer for what you've done. They don't realize that your life has been suffering for what you've done. That there's nobody on the planet, no matter how hateful and how mean, that is going to beat the crap out of you any more than you have beat it out of yourself. Self-hate is something that everybody in life experiences at some point. We all hate ourselves for something. Everybody, at every level of society. The addict doesn't stop hating him or herself until the chemical is gone. And once it is, then comes the reality of the drug wasn't the issue. The drug was a symptom of the issue. So now we got to figure out exactly what it is about us that was so difficult to cope with that we couldn't face a day sober. That's a tall order. It really is. It's a tall order. Under the best of circumstances. Now, there are some things you can do, right? And we do them based on the fact that other people have done them and they work. Journaling, talking to people in groups, right? Having a core network of people that you can count on so that when you're having a tough time, you can reach out. There's a lot that can be done. Writing goodbye letters to your drug of choice. Epic. Closes one chapter, starts another one. Making a profession, right? Where you come out and you do an interview and you tell the world exactly what you are and what you have been and what you are going to be. It's a tough thing to do. It really is. It's cathartic as hell for the people that can do it. And I'm not busting on anyone that can't. I'm not. It's not something that is a necessity, but it is something that helps people who can do it. But on top of all of that, with all of these things that you got to deal with, you also have to live life, right? We got to pay bills. We got to do everything that everybody else does. And you say, well, so what? Everybody does that. Right. But we don't hate them while they're doing it. We don't hate them. We don't call them names. We don't say hateful things, like just the gene pool getting cleaned up. Be better off if all of those junkies were dead. That kind of stuff. The things that people utter. And amazingly, they have absolutely no concept for the damage that they do. For real. Now, let's get it straight and not get it messed up in any way, right? Because this is realville, and it always has been. We own our past. We own the mistakes that we make. We've never made excuses for them. We did this. Now, had a disease, made it real tough to get out of, but we chose that road, made a mistake. A lot of people choose that road. That road grabs us, doesn't grab other people. But over the course of our addiction, we do an awful lot to damage society. There's no getting around that. We commit crimes, we tell lies, we burn our family, all kinds of things that addicts tend to do that make the world kind of angry at us, right? It's legit. It really is. That's legit. And sadly, you will be judged by the actions of an addict that did somebody dirty that's got nothing to do with you. There are people on this boat that have never stolen anything. There are. There are people on this boat who supported their drug habit by working really hard. I know you know who I'm talking about. The first name that jumps to the top of my head, an Aussie. You know exactly who I'm talking about. That cat never committed crimes. But you know what? He'll be treated just like me for the things that I did. I went a different path. And one that I certainly am not proud of. In spite of the fact that there are people out there that think that I'm proud of it. I'm not proud of my past. So why do I come here and I talk about it? So that somebody that arrives here who maybe just stole a little money from a parent or stole a little money from a roommate or found themselves so desperate that they ran out of a Home Depot with a box of tools that they could trade for dope. So that that person can go, if this guy can get sober, if this guy can turn his life around, right? If this guy can pay taxes and be a citizen, then I can. The idea from day one was to put a program together where we do what? How many times have we said this? Where we own our past and we celebrate our victories. You go in the real world and you tell somebody you've been sober for 2 years. Do they go, good for you? If they do, the second you walk away, they go, I should pat you on the back for being sober. I've been sober my whole life, right? Why should I pat you on the back for doing something that you should have done in the first place? Love, right? Effervescent, right? Just love. Society pours it out onto you. Trust and believe that if this society treated addicts with love and respect, they would come forward and say, I need help a hell of a lot faster than they do today. What they fear is ridicule and scorn and hate. And it's so ingrained that we literally hate ourselves. And when we do, we use the same terms that they do, don't we? Right? I'm a lush. I'm a drunk. I'm a loser. I'm a junkie. Their words. And why not? As long as they've been saying them. Say whatever you want. It's a disease. Is it a disease of choice? You bet. So is type 2 diabetes. You make bad choices. You put on way too much weight, right? You drink way too many sugary beverages, and you can absolutely get diabetes from your diet and your lifestyle. It's choice. We wouldn't rag on them though, would we? No. Even though. And why is it that two people could eat the exact same amount of stuff? They could drink the same sugary beverages. They could get their weight to the exact same amount, but one's going to get diabetes and one isn't. You know why? Because one was born with the predisposition for that disease. Sound familiar? Because that's the addict. Two people do the same drugs, drink the same stuff, go to college, 4 years, partying together. College ends, one goes and gets a job, and the other tries and just cannot stop. Willpower, right? That first dude's just strong, all kinds of willpower, and he's a better person, obviously, right? Just better moral fiber. It's BS, and we know it's BS, but there's a whole segment of this population that really believes that garbage. It's the truth. I think you would be shocked at the number of times that I have had somebody say to me, you are wasting your talent as a speaker doing what you're doing, or going the other route and saying, you stick with the addicts because it's where you're comfortable. And you know that if you ever got out into the real world that you wouldn't be able to hack it. You know, loving things like that. I get it all the time. It's incredible. It really is. It's incredible to me. But what hate does to a society is vicious. It's vicious. If everybody just went the other direction, if everybody just cared a little bit more, fake it till you make it. If you're one of those people out there that hate, fake it for a while. Treat people nice, even if you don't feel it. Do it for a little while and see what happens to you. One of the most amazing phenomena is that the people who say those things to me, like, I don't know why you'd want to work around those people or any of that, right? The gene pool getting cleaned up. They're the most miserable people I've ever met. No joke. These are people who are not doing well. They're not. I mean, they could be rich, they could be whatever, but they're not doing well. They're miserable. They're unhappy. Very often alone. You can't keep pushing out hate and not expecting that on the way out, some doesn't stick to you. For real. And hate is like a cancer. It will eat you. It absolutely will eat you. Have we done some stuff as a group to make ourselves hated? You betcha. You bet. But you know why I stay here? Because these are the least judgmental people I've ever met in my entire life. I have never seen anybody show up on this boat and have people say, I don't want you here. I don't want you here. You're the wrong race. You're the wrong color. You're the wrong gender, right? Your sexual orientation, any of that crap. No one's ever said, you got to go. People have showed up and said, you know what? I love what you're doing, but I'm still drinking, and I'm getting high. So I'm going to take off. No. Why in hell would you leave? Because you're in active addiction. Oh, I know. Because all of society has done that to you forever. Go to an AA meeting, and the guy at the door goes, hey, I can smell booze on your breath. Come back here when you're sober. Hell, if I'm sober, what do I need you for? If I can get through it with no booze, what the hell do I need you for? It's like turning away somebody from a cancer center because they have cancer. Never seen crap like that happen on the lifeboat. Never. And I'm not taking any credit for that, people. I'm not. The emails that I get that say I have never, ever been somewhere where I was more instantly accepted. There was a comment written the other day that just broke my heart. It was over on the Safe Harbor. And it was a person that wrote and said, this is the first time I'm posting anything. And then went on to basically describe exactly why. Because society has made this person believe that they are a certain number of things. There is a amazing, beautiful human being trapped inside every single person with an addiction. In some cases, it was the beautiful person they were before they started. And in some cases, they have to rebuild every single aspect of who they are. You follow me? What I am saying, Mark, is this. What I am saying is you can have a predisposition to get diabetes. Agreed? And then behavior that you do throughout life can cause that to happen. If a person is not one of those 3.5% who is already predestined for addiction, they can abuse alcohol for a very, very long period of time and then set it down. I realize that the disease concept of addiction is something that is very, very difficult for people to understand. But you put someone on a PET scan, whether they've ever done drugs or not, ever, and you look at the brain, and every single time the addict's brain is doing the same thing. It is hyperactivity in one place, and it is absolutely, minor activity in the other, way below normal. Bravo 90 says, AA, while I'm not against it, it was way too cult-like for me. You know what? I'm not against anything that works. For real. I'm not against anything that works. If it helps a person get sober, God bless them, right? That is the coolest thing in the world. However, it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all. It isn't. And the example that I was using of diabetes is just that if you have a predisposition to it, then your behavior can make that a reality. And if you have a predisposition for addiction, your behavior can make that a reality. However, if you don't, you could still be a loser, right? You can still act like a stone cold loser, go out, get drunk, crash cars, just do everything you could possibly do to try to short circuit your life. But you're drinking because you want to drink, not because you can't stop. It's a completely different phenomenon. And I know it's hard to wrap your brain around, but this is science at this point, people. There's absolutely no way to debate this anymore. I mean, people will. And the funny thing is they won't bring any science to the party because there isn't any. They'll bring hate. And I'm not saying you, by the way, but they'll bring hate. You see, the reason that we don't want to make addiction a disease or call it a disease is because, damn it, someone should have to pay for that, right? If we call it a disease, they're off the hook. It gives them a get out of jail free pass. The hell it does. You still got to live with every single thing you did, and you got to own it. I did a lot of horrendous stuff while I was using, and I have never denied any of it. I have, in every case that I could, made up as much as possible for the things that I've done. It's pretty much all that I am capable of doing. And I don't tell people how to run their sobriety. I don't. I tell people how it works for me. And like the guy said, I got nothing against AA. I got nothing against anything that works. Anything that works. If AA works for you, man, go. Go. I really do not care what works, because it is absolutely essential that something works. You follow me? I honestly don't care what that something is, but something has to. And in my humble opinion, the reason that we go to things like this, the reason that we go to any kind of a group setting, is so that you don't feel like you are the only person in the world suffering the way you do. People say, well, obviously, I mean, everybody knows that a bunch of people are addicted to drugs. Why would anybody feel like they're, because when you're in the life, right, you believe that, yeah, there are other people who are addicted, but not like me. There are other people who are addicted to alcohol, but not like me. You convince yourself that you are a specific brand of screwed up. And it is really a beautiful thing when you realize that that's not the case. CK, prayers for your mom. And is that Paul? Let me see something here. Okay. Yeah, cultivate, prayers for your mom. And I know that that we've been blessed. Her mom has actually been maintaining weight, which is something that that we've been praying for, and something that there was a period there where it wasn't going real well in terms of keeping the weight up. But fortunately, lately she's been doing great as far as that goes. So God bless it. We can get some ones up there. That would be a really lovely thing. Thank you, peeps. You know what, T Prada? I get it. The another thing that we all have to wrestle with, right? So we talked about society hate, right? Kind of at length. You're going to encounter some hate from friends, and they may not. Hold on. Oh, Mark, that's heavy. That is absolutely heavy. Well, I'm glad to hear that is over, though, right? And the fact that you're willing to say it out loud, to type that in here says an awful lot. I have a lot of respect for that. I mean that. Friends are going to start to turn their back on us, and with good reason a lot of the times, for real. Sadly, once we get the substance out of our lives, once we begin to get some sober time, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, when that time comes, we kind of hope that people are going to accept us. You have to realize that that's not going to be as easy as it sounds. And you can't let that drag you down, because if you do, it's going to be one of the catalysts to send you back fast, because acceptance is something that takes a long time to earn back. It really does. And the only way you're going to do it is just by continuing to live life the way that you're supposed to, being the person that you were meant to be. And friends will come around. And if they don't, they weren't friends in the first place. Noah James, 98, says, is it possible to be addicted to wanting to love someone? I know that sounds dumb, but bear with me. I'm not sure that it sounds dumb. Once again, love, as silly as it sounds, is also a chemical reaction in the brain. It is. And I'm not saying it's not beautiful. I'm not saying it's not, one of the greatest experiences in the world, but it's caused by a chemical reaction in the brain, right? That is what creates love. So there are people for whom I don't think the proper term would be addicted to that. But there are people whose reward centers don't work quite right. And it can cause you to feel very similar emotions to being addicted. The trouble with the addiction model or ascribing addiction to that is that the definition of addiction is the inability to stop something in the face of unbelievable reasons to stop, like harm coming to you and big time amounts of harm coming to you. That is what addiction is. So that's probably not the case. I mean, it could be a situation where, if you've been arrested 4 or 5 times for stalking this person, well then, there could be some really heavy stuff, that is being caused by that. But again, I wouldn't call it addiction. It doesn't mean that there aren't people for whom really tough chemical reactions are going on in the brain, having everything to do with love. And for those of us who have a malfunctioning reward center of the brain, it's going to feel a hell of a lot like addiction. It is. It's also a great song. If you were alive in the 80s, it was a really, really great song. All right. Miss Dragon, did you gift 5? Good Lord. I did not see that until just now. And if I'm missing any of those, gift 5. If I'm missing any of those, I really want to apologize. In the old days when I did this, I didn't do it through StreamYard. We brought on StreamYard so that I could so I could bring multiple people on the boat at the same time, and we could do all kinds of stuff. Mark, it sounds like you lived a pretty rough life, bud. And I would imagine that kind of life would have the desire to forget things like that must be really strong. You know what, Noah? You may have lost your soulmate. I mean, that's the feeling of loss can be overwhelming. And it is, once again, a chemical reaction. And although I wouldn't call it an addiction, right? A lot of the treatments for it are going to be the exact same thing, for real. And I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV or on this channel. But anytime something is really starting to work on you, there are certain things that you can do. The same concepts, things like you're not going to have 2 thoughts competing at the exact same time in the brain. If you are sitting down and you are trying to ponder E = MC squared, at the same time, you will not be getting another picture, right? It's a fact that when people talk about multitasking and 2 thoughts at once, doesn't mean you can't do something while you're just sort of diddling. But if you have an actual unique one of your 60,000 unique thoughts a day, you are not going to have another one at the same time. That's an impossibility. So you are going to have to work really hard to get the automatic negative thoughts. Ants, after a breakup, after the loss of somebody that really means a lot to you, automatic negative thoughts are going to run rampant through your head. And they're going to tell you all kinds of things that are dangerous, especially if you've been addicted to anything. You're going to be calling yourself every name under the book. You blew this, you blew that. Do I believe everything happens for a reason? Yeah, I do. But you don't have to. I do. But that is a very personal thing. I know that there are people who believe otherwise. But no, I wholeheartedly believe that everything happens for a reason. I've had a very, very unique day today, people. I have had a very unique day. Sometimes I think about what I'm thinking about. Just blew my mind, Tommy Bird. Seriously, I'm going to spend the rest of my night thinking about that. That was cold hearted. You do as well. Noah James, you know what? One of the best things that you can do is talk to people. One of the best things that you can do, no matter what, is get it out. Make no mistake, people. Group therapy works for everything. People come to me, sadly, without fail. A couple of times a month, somebody will come to me who has been assaulted sexually. And my heart bleeds for them. But the lifeboat is probably not the place. We can address the addiction part of what's going on in someone's life. But that individual needs to go and be in a group of people who understand exactly what that is. And there are groups for everything. There are groups for people coming back from war, because again, there's nobody that's going to understand what they went through except people who have been to war. If you ever see people get together who have been in battle, they come up and they say, "Where were you?" And they start talking instantly, and they'll name Fallujah. Oh Lord, it was bad there. And there is a camaraderie that is instant. ZW, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And again, Miss Dragon, that was huge. I mean, that is such a nice gift. It really is. Noah James, that's such a cool thing to say. I appreciate that. And we're glad that you're here. But so group therapy of any kind, if there's something that's going on in your life, there are groups for everything. When I first got out of federal prison, I was actually going to an online meeting for people who had just gotten out. And the conversations there are obviously a hell of a lot different than any conversation I could have anywhere else in the real world. You know, people said things like, you know, you spend enough time incarcerated and you walk into a Walmart to buy a stick of deodorant and you can stare at the wall for 45 minutes because you have not had a choice of any kind in a decade. You haven't had the ability. No one allowed you to choose anything. 23 years is wildly impressive. Wildly impressive. You know what? Misha, I love that. Awakened by the Looking Glass. That is such a kind thing to say. Fellowship connection, rediscovering me. I love that. I really do. I really do. That is so kind. That is so kind. But yeah, we group anything works. And it works because, as we joke about a lot, there has never been somebody in as a psychologist or counselor or in psychiatry, if they're an MD, or anyone who said, here's the key. Take what you're doing and hold it inside. That thing that's bothering you, just bottle it up. Don't tell a soul about it, right? Don't just hold that inside. You'll be doing a lot better in about 6 months. There's a reason why that has never been said. It's because if you hold things inside, they will eat you alive. You come here and you work out whatever is bothering you. You say it out loud. No reason to stare at walls or run into people. Well, it was one of those things that honestly, and so many people complained about it, that the number of choices became overwhelming because you didn't have any choices. How come it's easier to talk to people you don't know compared to people that you do know? For me, at least. I'll tell you what, Noah. No one is staring at you. The concept behind the lifeboat from the very first day that we started it was, normally this group therapy takes place in like a hall, right? A convention center, whatever. A large room with a bunch of chairs in a circle. Sometimes they're in the basement of a church or whatever, right? You walk in the door and you're expected to stand up and say, I'm Noah James, and I'm an alcoholic, or I'm a drug addict. My drug of choice was cocaine, and the last time I used it was 4 days ago. You don't know anybody in the room, and everybody in the room's doing this one, right? They're all staring at you, and you're expected to stand up and talk to all of these people that you've never met, who are just lightning bolts staring at you and making you really uncomfortable. And the number one fear listed Number one phobia listed in the world is public speaking. And toss on top of that, nailed it, Tommy Bird, judgment. You go anywhere else, friends, even those groups, what you see in the eyes of people that look at you is judgment. They're judging you. Oh, this guy's a cokehead. Great. You know what I mean? Got one of those in the group. Everybody is going to look at people in a certain way. But on the lifeboat, that doesn't happen. You don't have to overcome a fear of public speaking to come here and type in what's bothering you. And that's a beautiful thing. And the people in the comment section, I'm never going to rag on you. They're never going to tell you that you're a loser or that, what you were doing. They're going to be here to support you. We're not going to sugarcoat things. There have been times where people have come here and sort of just made up one excuse after another, after another, after another, until we had to say, you know what? No. Man, you need to own your past. It's not anybody's fault but yours. It isn't, right? Addiction is the fault of the person that did it. However, there is a disease involved. That's why we call it a disease of choice. The biggest contributor of judgment is usually myself. I fear how others will judge me by my own judgment of who I think they see. You know what? Through the looking glass, that makes an awful lot of sense. But like I was talking about earlier, it is a residual of what we have seen our entire existence. Even before we were addicts, you saw how people talk about and treat people who are addicted, right? There's usually not a tremendous amount of love or caring or compassion. And that rubs off. How many times have you heard people in here refer to themselves as a crackhead, a junkie, whatever? We have become, sort of programmed, I guess, by the hate. I was a tour guide at Churchill Downs. I loved it. Not a big fan of speaking with people one-on-one. You know what, Scott? I understand that. For real, I understand that. I'm of the firm belief that often I'm more comfortable talking to a group of people than I am talking to someone one-on-one. We all live on this little marble together in an infinite cosmos. I like that, Noah. I really do. Determination gives you the results to keep going despite roadblocks that lie before you. Seventh, that's beautiful. For real. You know what? I would avoid the shopping thing, V, one way or the other. Heather Joy, you are funny. You know what? Hats off too. If you've been catching Heather on the boat, I often say I'm a lush, says Seventh. Heather's just getting better. Done some really, really fantastic work in the last, say, week and a half. So really, really happy to have you, Heather, and really proud of you. Oh, yeah. For anything, especially addicts. I went from the country club world to the country. I love that way. I love the way people in the country accepted us better than those, that we had to dress up for and act perfect for. It's such an interesting perspective. Whenever we start to have these conversations, whenever the subject of hate comes up, that's why right in the beginning, when we put up the rules, I mean, how incredible is it that one of the rules has to be we don't allow hate? It's really remarkable. I walked into a Walmart. I see all of those people with dazed look on their faces. I get that itch in the back of my head. I start looking for places to dive. You know what, Mark? I get that. This is another thing. When I got out, not this time, because this time I had a much better basis for what I was doing because of Q and because of everything else. I just got out in a much better kind of frame of mind and everything else. But when I got out the previous time, the girl that I was with at the time, she and I would shop at like 2:00 in the morning because we just going into Walmart during the day was just, I know exactly what you're talking about, Mark. It's sometimes a very uncomfortable place to be. I am over a great deal of that, and honestly, I credit you a lot, everybody here, a lot with that. I have learned so much from all of you. Scott, we could. There's no question. Two of my favorite subjects. No Walmart for me. No, says ZW. I was on the second shift, 28 years. I zig when they zag. Noah, you know what? You come here and you, everyone, yep, that's what I was gonna say. You come here and you open up. Everybody here will be kind. It's a lot more than I can say for the real world. You know, a lot more than I can say for the real world. And how many times does somebody come on the boat that's got 23 years, 32 years? And you think to yourself, why does a person with 32 years of sobriety come back? Because they have 32 years of sobriety. Because they want everybody that is struggling on month 8 to go, it's possible. Look at me. And I'm coming back to tell you it's possible. It's the only reason I'm here. This channel is such a wonderful thing. You know what? Don't give me too much credit for it, Jason, but it is a wonderful thing. I wish I would have found this sooner. To everybody here, never quit quitting. Yes, I love it. Thank you, Jason. It's a great comment. And I'll tell you something, people. Yeah, Noah, welcome to the boat. True story. I saw Noah here, I want to say about 3 or 4 shows ago. I saw Noah and we said hi, but yeah, Noah, officially, welcome to the boat. We're glad that you're here. True story. I agree, Wharton. I grew up in a very, very small town and loved it. And thank you, Mom. Haven't been in the doors of Walmart in 2 years. Mark, good for you. Sadly, I kind of have to, I end up there way more than I would like to be honest with you. Luke Skywalker, coming in all the way from Australia. And I believe you're in the capital of Australia, are you not? I think you're in Canberra. We'll see if I'm wrong. I believe he's from Canberra. Rick Smith says, been twice today. That's the nature of it. Oh, Brisbane. My bad. I thought you were from, I don't know why I thought you were from Canberra. My bad. Did I eat a pepper with Johnny yet? Not on the TV. I will be doing that. I promise you. I live in an extremely small town myself, about 1,500 people max. Not a big town. Absolutely not a big town. Chili Phil. Good to see you. The smiley face scares me. It lies. Okay. Well, all righty then. Miss Dragon, what did I miss? Yeah, Walmart's a little creepy. It really is. I love wearing my sleep pants to Walmart. You know what? You fit right in. Oh, you grew up in Canberra. Okay. Okay. We have Lady Fiona Crispin. So Linda here on the boat is from Canberra. She is from the capital of Australia.
No, I wouldn't want you to do that. You got to prep for that.
All right. All right. Yeah, I will be doing that. Let me see. A little stank. It's got some stank on it. I will absolutely be necking probably that one. And my brother is going to be navaging his beak. Did you hear that? Since C plus math hit, the liquor stores have been doing huge sales. That's worldwide, Skywalker. That is worldwide. The C plus math, and if you're new here, the reason we say that is because if I say the actual thing, they'll just demonetize and hide this. We don't want it. They demonetize every video, but they also will not push it. The last time I was at Walmart was my ex-girlfriend that lives in. Okay, that is an experience. Oh, Wharton. Wharton, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I really am sorry to hear that. But you know what? The best thing that person has going for them is you. That's the gospel truth. If it were anybody else, right? Just what we've been talking about all day. If it was anyone else, you think they would be sticking by that person's side? Honestly, do you think? I don't. I very rarely laugh out loud. The chili eating gets me. Did you watch us eat fish? That's usually good for a laugh out loud. At the stupid question guy? How did I miss that? We've got someone here named the stupid question guy. That's a great handle. That really is a great handle. Welcome, the stupid question guy. I feel odd saying that. I really do. I kind of feel odd saying that. The fish was brutal. It was. I'm not going to lie to you. The fish was really, really tough. You know what, Wharton? Can we get some prayers? Seriously, for Wharton. That's a tough hill right now. It really is. That is a tough hill to climb. But we're here. Wharton, reach out. You know what I mean? If you need to talk or anything else. People never suffer in silence. Please do not suffer in silence. Don't judge the boat or any other group kind of situation. Don't let the rest of the world make you believe that there are people out there, that there are people who are not like that. Don't let it taint your ability to just reach out and say, I need help. Suffering in silence is killing people. Today in the United States, we're going to lose 400 people to drug overdoses. It's the number one cause of death in our country. And you know what? They're okay with it. They're okay with it. If it were any other way that these people were dying, this country would be up in arms and they'd do something about it. But because it's drugs, no one's doing squat. Well, peeps, that does bring us up to the Johnny Good News. One of my friends is growing me a ghost pepper plant, says Noah James, 98. Did you catch that one? It's good. Already growing. All right, people. You know what time it is. I have not even seen one chant for the star of the show. Normally, by this point, we're getting the squirrel chants. But you know what? Yes, there you go. Where's that kitty in a basket? All right, peeps. As we've always said, I have always promised you two things. Right? And one of them is a cat in a basket. Mark, thank you, my friend. That's very kind of you. Cultivate, praying for your mom. Noah James, that is a really nice thing to say. I'm glad that you're here, man. Noah, you know what? Send us an email sometime. sober@myyahoo.com. Just say hello. We get to know you a little bit better. There you go. Cat, squirrel, Tommy, praying. Love it. All righty, peeps. You really are the best. And special thanks to ZW and to Miss Dragon. Really appreciate you. Really do. Have a great night, all.